Hey, and welcome back to my podcast, Marissa. If you listen to my intro, you probably heard me say something like, I've had 17 jobs in 10 years. That, while crazy, is true. Society tells us to pick a lane and stay in it and then climb that ladder, but I find that so boring. When I was a kid, I moved almost every summer due to my dad's job. He wasn't military, but he was transplanted each year for new management. So in the summertime, after the school year would end, we'd all pack up and go to the next state. And we are 7 people in my family, and we almost always had a dog. So I mostly remember having huskies, at least two at all times. Starting at the age of 5 years old, we moved every summer up until I was in sixth grade. And during those years of my childhood, I figured out that it was really hard to make friends and then lose them just a year later. So eventually, I just kind of stopped trying to make friends and became the introvert that I am now. My physical environment was changing every year during my formative years, and I think that plays a huge part in why I am the way I am today. My comfort zone wasn't stability, it was change. Even though my family was great and we have really good relationships with one another, like nothing was wrong in that sense, but my environment around me was constantly changing. And that became normal for me. As a kid, I was jumping from one interest to another. Like my favorite animals would change every month. My favorite color too. I would constantly be rearranging my bedroom just so that it would look different every now and then. I still do that to this day. And my favorite color still changes. Like every time somebody asks me, it's a different answer. I wasn't casually trying things. I was hyper focusing on something and then looking for the next mountain to climb. In high school every year, we had to write these what I want to be when I grow up papers. We had to do extensive research on the topic and what it takes to become that kind of professional. And I had vastly different ideas for my future every single year. Freshman year, I wanted to be a nutritional nurse. Sophomore year, I wanted to be a marine biologist. Junior year, psychologist. And by senior year, I wanted to be a full-blown musician, singer, songwriter, and performer. Needless to say, none of those have come true. I have over 10 years of experience in the workforce after high school, and I'm still applying for entry-level positions. When I started entering the workforce around 14 years old, I realized quickly that the 9 to 5 is not for me. I didn't mind part-time jobs because it was just like a section of my day doing a certain thing for a little while. But after I graduated college and I started getting full-time jobs, I realized that I felt trapped and suffocated. The cycle was get a job, master it, and then look for something new. I would quickly hit the ceiling of focus or interest for myself, and within 2 or 3 months of starting that new job, I would get bored and start looking for something new. On a daily basis, I am going from creative intensity of producing music, creating content, over to being an executive assistant for a CIO, and then also studying to get my second degree. For a long time, I would wonder, like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just pick a career and stick to it? Like, why can't I be like everybody else and just know what I want to be when I grow up? Like, I have felt like I'm growing up and I'm still at ground zero. But over time and with a lot of journaling and self-reflection, I've learned that I didn't fail at 17 jobs. I've successfully acquired the skill set of 17 different positions. I realized I'm not unfocused. I just need variety to feel alive. And let me think of the 17 jobs that I've had. A lot of these jobs that go into the number 17 that I told you is a lot of seasonal work, part-time retail, like Kohl's and restaurant gigs. I worked at Friendly's, which is an ice cream dinner restaurant in Pennsylvania. Um, I worked at AC Moore, the arts and supply store that has now been purchased by Michaels, I believe. I did something for a tax office in Macungie, Pennsylvania once. And then moving over to college, I did seasonal work for a Christmas card slash greeting card producer that like they would make the cards as ordered. And then I would be in charge of like quality control, making sure there was no blemishes or errors on the order and then getting them ready for a shipment. And then later on moving into adulthood, I started getting into like banking and I was a teller for a few years. And then I became like an agent that would help people with their finances and getting loans. And now I'm an assistant. But at a certain point, I realized that I am growing up and I need to lock down something secure and stable because I am not going to be able to just have part-time jobs forever. So I started looking for jobs that didn't require much schooling, but that paid well. And the number one thing that I found was police dispatch. So a dispatcher is somebody that answers the phone when you call 911, and then they dispatch to the team that is needed, like an ambulance, the police, fire station or utilities for like down power lines kind of thing. I tried for 3 years to get a job as a dispatcher. I applied to over 35 different departments in my area or within driving distance. No one wanted me, and to be honest, I really did not want to do that job. I interviewed for several of these departments, and I got to do what they call a sit along or a ride along. So I would get to sit next to the dispatcher for a few hours during their shift and see what it really is like. And in the dull moments, I would ask them questions and like try to learn more about the position. All of these people would tell me that they've worked for that department for like 20 plus years. And it gave me this gross feeling in my gut like, I can't imagine doing any job for over 20 years or for any amount of time, like that long. I would hate to be tied down to a desk for the rest of my life. So, over the 3 years that I was trying for this, I think I accidentally manifested all of the rejections because I didn't want that for myself. And we'll talk about manifestation and law of attraction stuff next week. But when I realized that I really didn't want to be doing dispatch, I switched my focus to doing things that I actually love. I'm lucky enough to have landed a job now that I can work remotely. Because I can work remotely from anywhere that has internet, that's exactly what I do. I take my laptop with me everywhere I go, and I just go wherever I feel like going that day. Like sometimes I go to the lake nearby and I just sit down at a picnic table and do my work there. Other times I go to Disneyland and Universal Studios and I post TikToks on what it's like to work from home from the parks. And now I've finally started my own podcast where I can share all of these interests, experiences, and ideas with you. My goal is to eventually quit the rat race for good. I don't think our generation is meant for it. I think most people my age are creatives and do not belong in the 9 to 5 working at a desk until they retire. If you feel stuck, or if you change your major or your career or your lifestyle or your hobbies 5 or 6 different times or whatever, it's not necessarily a flaw. It just means that you're meant for adventure and gaining experience. You aren't broken, you're just meant for expansion. Next time I visit my parents in June, I'm going to grab all of my journals that they have stored in a closet somewhere so that I can start going through actual experiences with you guys about what I've lived through and things that I've learned. Until then, make sure to follow the show and head over to TikTok to check out my other experiences and little videos, and give yourself permission to pivot. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you again next week.